Hello everybody, welcome to today's video of World Lit with Shubs. In today's video, I'm going to bring you a book from Argentina written by a Norwegian writer. Her name is Norah Lange and the book is called Notes from Childhood. This was originally written in Spanish, I think in 1939. I got this book as a part of the subscription plan I have with And Other Stories, who is the publisher. It's like I pay for an yearly subscription and they send me 4 books. I don't know what books they are going to send me. So it's like a blind date with the book. Because of the excellent reputation of And Other Stories, any book that they are going to send you is going to be an awesome read. This is the final book of the subscription for this year, I think. Yeah. I didn't show you the book. This is the book. It's a small letter, which they cute letter that they send, get that printed and stuff like that, which talks about their subscription. Hold on. Dear readers, as well as relying on bookshop sales, And Other Stories relies on subscriptions from people like you for many of our books, whose stories other publishers often consider too risky to take on. Our subscribers don't just make the books physically happen, they also help us approach booksellers because we can demonstrate that our books already have readers and fans. And they give us the security to publish in line with our values, which are collaborative, imaginative, and shamelessly literary. All of our subscribers receive a first edition copy of each of the books they subscribe to, are thanked by name at the end of our subscriber supported books, receive little extras from us by way of thank you, for example, postcards created by our authors. And guess what I got? The photograph is of a party celebrating Norah Lange's early novel, 45 días y 30 marineros. Norah Lange is the mermaid, and poets Pablo Neruda and Oliverio Girondo, later Norah Lange's husband, are among the sailors. So in the photograph, I couldn't find where Neruda was when I looked at it. Then after a bit of searching on the internet, Twitter had another picture where there was a close-up of Neruda with his friends. I was able to vaguely locate him on the leftmost corner of the photograph, I think, on the second line. So that was a fun thing to search and find. Okay, let's get to the book. This book is a series of autobiographical snapshots from the author's lives between 1910 and 1915. The Spanish original is called Cuadernos de Infancia. These snapshots are clearly reminiscences of Norah Lange's childhood memories, and each chapter, which is at most 4 pages long, is like a photograph which is beautifully composed and captured, and the author explains the visual elements in words, and she doesn't mince her words. This book follows the lives of Norah Lange and her 4 sisters, Gabriela, Susana, Marta, and Irene. I didn't do the initial research on the book. I didn't read about the author at the back of the book. So I assumed that this was a Argentinian who was writing a Spanish book. And I was like wondering why Irene, why is it such an English name? Why is it not Irena? And don't parents always name their kids rhythmic? And parents, don't they name their kids in a rhyming pattern, like especially when they have so many kids, But then I looked it up on the internet and I was able to find a link on Asymptote Journal where an excerpt from the original was published, and there it was Irene. So I was like, oh, okay, Irene, fine. And then I went and read about the book author section, and it said like the author is a Norwegian. Okay, that makes sense. Apart from what the blurb says about the book, through a veneer of comforting domesticity, these notes show us childhood at its most elemental, a laboratory of life in which strangeness, joy, terror, and eroticism combine and collide. I would also say that the book shows a childhood in all its glory and gory. Children don't have the capacity to be empathetic, they just live life uh, the way they understand it, like they are so blunt. In fact, I would go one step further and say that no one lives lives truer than the children, because they are like so open and so they don't have filters. That makes the adults, that which the adults find it really hilarious. On the other hand, because they don't have the capacity to be empathetic, they come across as a bit cruel, unintentionally, of course. This is not a reflection on their character, but it's more like they don't have enough experience in life to understand the other people's sadness or the troubles and all the tribulations that other people go through. This is the evolution we get to see in this book. You get to see how the author has grown in these 5 years through her writing. The author obsessively captures all her neuroses and insecurities and her fears. It takes a certain courage to write so openly about so many things. Especially when we are children, we have so many inappropriate thoughts, and the author didn't seem to be too bothered by it. And I absolutely love such frank writing. It takes bravery to write what one thinks, but it takes much more bravery to write what one thought when they were a child, without any fear of censure. Another aspect I loved reading in this book is the history, not the significant events or something like that, but I love knowing how people lived at the turn of the century, turn of the 20th century. What did they look like? How did they dress up? What were they eating? How were their houses? How were their daily lives? What did they study? How did they study? Who taught them? The questions are endless, and this book seriously whetted my appetite in this respect. I'm reading from page number 68. I can't remember which book or comment led me for a few days to feign a serious mood, a solemn and pensive attitude. When my sisters called me to play, I answered in a tone of concentration. I can't. I have too much to think about. My sisters gathered around, tugging at my dress, laughing and dancing about me, holding hands. Unmoved, determined to continue my brooding, I would wander off and sit alone in a corner of third terrace. On the third day, when I realized that no one was impressed, I began to tire of my act. When classes were over and it was time to play, I tried to approach my sisters, but they, intent on getting revenge, left me alone. Prepared not to show a single regret, a single change in my behavior, that afternoon, I stayed alone by the terrace, casting sidelong glances as they finished a game of croquet with the governess. My efforts to think about something complicated, to seem absorbed in the deepest of thoughts, were futile. I felt overwhelmingly bored and forlorn. The next afternoon, to dispel the isolation I had brought on myself, I went over to them and said, "Shall we play croquet?" My sisters looked at me and pretended not to notice until one of them said, "You can't play with us, you have too much to think about." Then they ran off toward the garden. Half an hour later, when she came into my room, Miss Whiteside found me crying alone on my bed. Without saying a word, she dried my eyes with her handkerchief and smoothed my hair. Then I heard one of my sisters coming. After a few minutes, they were all in my room chatting away about trivial things until I forgot my loneliness and joined in the conversation. This is from page 72. Mother had just dismissed the cook. Irene sat on her bed with her dresses, toys, and all her worldly possessions piled up by her pillow, weeping softly. She was always the one to drive the servants away. She moved their things around, hid the most important utensils, shouted things at them while hiding behind a door, and made up 1,000 arguments so Mother would end up begging them to leave. But Irene had liked Maria right from the start, and when she learned that Mother had dismissed her, she went off in search of Maria and begged her to say when she was leaving so that they could make their escape together. The cook was touched and said she would leave the next morning. Only after forcing her to promise to wake her in time did Irene return to her room. Silently, Pretending not to understand the jokes made at her expense, crying tears that went unheard, she set about wrapping up her clothes and books and all of her little things, and when she had made a bundle almost as big as herself, she lay down in bed, since she would have to get up early. The next morning, the cook left without saying goodbye. When Irene realized that she had been deceived, she went sadly back to her room to hang up her clothes, untie her books, and put all her things back in place. She wore a tragic expression that, for the first time, we didn't dare follow her. There are only positive things to say about the translator. She has done a tremendous job. I didn't feel like I was reading a translation at all. So congratulations to Miss Whittle. I would have loved to know what she would have wanted to say in the translator's note, but the translator's note only had this to offer. But I did read Miss Whittle's interview on how she translated this book on the publisher's website and other stories, so that was good. So if you like the story, if you like the book, if you like the review, go to And Other Stories and buy their book. Okay, that was a free marketing plug for them. Anyway, smash the subscribe button. I will get back to you with another video soon. Till then, stay safe, mask up, take care.